Thank you, veterans. Chapter 9, Class Trip. As the next week came and went, the day of the class trip to the Veterans Recreational Center finally arrived. Most of the students were excited about meeting actual veterans and learning more about them. A few students, such as Kara and Victoria, were a little shy. Kara was the quietest girl in the class and rarely spoke to anyone. But who would have thought that Victoria, such an outgoing student, would have a problem talking to adults? It seemed as if Mrs. Mitchell picked up on this situation quickly and then decided to break the class up into pairs as they spoke to each veteran. Caitlin and Kara ended up being partners, and Annabelle was partners with Victoria. Each student had a clipboard and the list of questions they came up with last week in their groups. Annabelle was a little concerned for Victoria and took this opportunity to speak seriously with her again. So, Victoria, are you all right? Annabelle asked in concern. You look a little scared, as if you just saw a ghost. I'm not a fan of old people. They give me the creeps, Victoria admitted. What's wrong with old people, Victoria? They're human beings just like you and me, except they've lived a lot longer. I know that, but they're old. Ever since my grandma died, I haven't liked being around old people. I just get a little nervous, that's all, Victoria explained. It all made sense now. Annabelle could definitely relate to Victoria and her feelings. When my grandma died 2 years ago, I felt really sad, said Annabelle. I really cried a lot because I missed her so much. I also felt bad for my grandpa because he had to go into a nursing home so someone else could take care of him. I'm so sorry to hear that, Annabelle. So, what did you do to feel better? My mom told me to always think about the happy times we share together, said Annabelle. She also told me that my grandma is in a better place now, without pain. Thinking about that makes me smile, Annabelle said. I guess that's a good way to think about it. I think I'll take your advice, Victoria said, and smiled. Annabelle was happy that she was really making a breakthrough with Victoria. Maybe a deeper friendship bond would form between them. Only time would tell. Annabelle and Victoria were assigned to a little old lady who was sitting in a wheelchair. Her name was Emma McNeil, and she was a nurse who had served in the army. She was very feisty and well spoken. Victoria was actually starting to warm up to her as she asked her questions. Annabelle thought Emma was funny and witty in her responses to each question. Annabelle and Victoria both enjoyed interviewing Emma. They were almost sad to leave. Before they left, they also went around and passed out the special thank you cards they had made for each veteran. After the students returned to school, the school day was pretty much over. They had just spent about 3 hours on their trip and enjoyed it. Mrs. Phillips told them they would do a wrap up tomorrow and talk about their experiences. Annabelle and Caitlin were on their way to drama club after school when they noticed Victoria standing off to the side in the hallway. Hey, Caitlin, let's invite Victoria to walk with us to drama club, Annabelle suggested. I guess we could. Her attitude has been a little better these days, Caitlin said, although she wasn't too sure. Hey, Victoria, come walk with us to drama club, Annabelle called to her. Victoria was shocked to see that Caitlin was okay with that. She also thought Caitlin didn't like her, which was sort of true. But what Victoria didn't see was that she was changing for the better, making others want to be with her. Okay, girls, I'll be right there. Victoria hurried to catch up with them. Once they arrived at the auditorium, they walked in and sat down with the other students. They all wondered where Mrs. Phillips was because she had not arrived yet. I wonder where Mrs. Phillips is. She's never late, Caitlin said. Maybe she forgot about drama club today. I guess I'll have to take over, Tyler said, wanting to take charge. You wouldn't even know what to do, said Victoria. I'll be a better fit to take over the class. I could lead everyone in more improvisations. That would certainly be fun, Annabelle said. Everyone else seemed to agree. They started laughing and playing around in the auditorium. Just then, everyone heard loud gobbling noises as if someone were trying to make turkey sounds. They all turned around to see who was making those noises. To their surprise, Mrs. Phillips came out on stage in a turkey costume and pretended to be a talking turkey. As she walked around, the class began to laugh. Mrs. Phillips eventually settled everyone down in her turkey talking voice. Today we're going to have some fun with pilgrims, Native Americans, and talking turkeys. Everyone will pick a name out of a hat with a number on it. Then you will find all the ones and make a group. Find all the twos and make a group. And find all the threes and make a group. You can begin now, Mrs. Phillips instructed. The students did exactly what Mrs. Phillips said. When they separated into their groups, they did silly improvisations with a Thanksgiving Day theme. All the groups did a great job and had a fun time. A light bulb went off in Annabelle's head. She thought this activity would be very meaningful as well as funny. After class, she immediately went up to Mrs. Phillips to share her idea. Mrs. Phillips, I was in the planning group for the Veterans Thanksgiving celebration, and I think it would be a great idea to include some of this very funny Thanksgiving skit to the program, Annabelle said with excitement. I think that would be a great idea too, but won't you have to clear this idea with Mrs. Mitchell first? Mrs. Phillips said. Oh, of course, but I have a strong feeling that Mrs. Mitchell will love it. We can perform the skit on the stage while the veterans are eating their special Thanksgiving meal, Annabelle said, imagining the fun they would all have. It's okay with me if everything is approved. I think that's a great idea. That's all Annabelle needed to know. She knew exactly what to do next. Chapter 9 is finished. I have some questions for you. Why was Victoria quiet during the day of the trip to the Veterans Recreational Center? And what advice did Victoria take from Annabelle? Discuss this with your friends.